Good morning, everybody. Today is a special show. It's, this is Wonder Women, but today I have a Superman. We have podcasts here at the community newspaper, and we wanted to collaborate together today. He is Autism Dad, Victor Antunez.
You got it.
I got it. Yay. We're going to talk a little bit about what he does, and I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Yolanda.
You're a sweetheart, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you for being so kind. So, are you? We were talking a little bit before. I believe you're native from Miami, correct?
Well, I'm a native Floridian. I was born in Gainesville, Florida. When my father graduated university, I was 1 year old. We moved to Miami. Mm-hmm. So I've been in Miami since a long time ago.
A long time ago. So, tell me a little bit about yourself. I know you're a realtor.
I'm a real estate agent, and I specialize in families with autism or disabilities. And the reason for that is that I have an autistic daughter. And I realize, with my own journey, my own family's journey, is that people in these families, they have different needs.
Got it.
And that's how that all started.
Wow.
Yes.
It's true because you're looking for schools, the homes close to schools that could help their child, correct?
You're looking for that. You're also looking for hazards. For example, drowning is the biggest cause of accidental death amongst autistic people.
Wow.
So, if you're not in this world, you might not know that. So you might not know that, that lake down the road that's not fenced, that might not be appropriate for certain families. So these are just things that I bring to the table.
Wow. That's a great quality. That's something great for parents to know. That's really beneficial. So I love the story of how you became Autism Dad. Can you share that with me?
So my daughter was diagnosed just before turning 3 years old, and that was 5 years ago. So I was at the Falls shopping mall, and I was at the Apple store, and next door there's a hat shop, and I would name drop them, but I forget the name of the store, but right next door, and I was looking in the window, and there's all these hats like, UM Dad, Gator Dad, Miami Dad. And I was like, Autism Dad. Right? Yeah, well, Autism Dad. So I put on this hat, and it's just become, like my thing. People know with the Autism Dad. And it's my way of just representing my daughter who can't represent herself.
Wow. And I think it makes everybody more comfortable to ask questions, right?
Of course. It's the greatest conversation starter ever.
Of course.
And I meet a lot of other autism families through it, a lot of other families with disabilities, because, I think that autism, it might be like the biggest disability out there, and it overshadows a lot of other needs out there. So on my own podcast, I try to go beyond autism because it's not the only one, but it is the big one, unfortunately. So
your daughter's 2 years old?
No. Well, she's 8 now.
8 now?
Yeah.
She was diagnosed at?
Just before 3. Now, what happens very often with these autistic kids is between 2 and 3, they have what's called a regression. Now, when you're a first-time parent, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Now I know that this is actually a very common occurrence. So she had a regression, and she was 2.5. The thing at that age is that we just thought, oh, how cute. Because at that age, everything's cute. And then my mother-in-law, she actually read my wife and I the riot act. Like, you know what? This is beyond cute. Something is off. You have to have her looked at. And that's when the light bulb moment was for me. Like, yeah, you know what? This is beyond cute. So we went to doctors, had her evaluated, then diagnosed. And that was around 3 years of age that happened. And that was 5 years ago. And, she's improving, but yeah, she's autistic.
It's crazy because when my children were born, there was no knowledge about autism. It was like my son had a speech delay, so we did all these types of testings, and there was not enough information at the time, and it was very frustrating because you didn't know if there was that big deal with the vaccines, and don't give them the vaccines, and it was just one of those things. How do you feel about autism today? Is there enough information? What do you believe is the cause of it? Do you have any idea how you think it starts?
Well, the numbers have increased, so nobody can argue that. Now, why is it increasing? Well, there's several reasons that I think. One is that the umbrella of autism has grown. It was 1945, 1946 that Dr. Leo Kanner first gave autism a diagnosis. This is a thing. Wow. And if you read that diagnosis, it's very, very specific what it is. Now, my daughter, she's level 2 nonverbal, so she's very clearly autistic. But that umbrella has grown. Now, there are people who are very high functioning, can have a conversation. They're a little bit off, but they're not off like my daughter. Now, and they fall within that umbrella of autism now. So I think that part of it is that the umbrella of what is considered autism has grown. Two is, I don't know about vaccines, but I just do think that a big part of it is environmental. The world,
I agree with that.
Yeah. The world, you can't argue that there's more garbage on the streets.
Yeah.
The waters are more polluted. You hear about corals dying. And so I think that a big part of it is environmental. And I'm not going to name drop, but I have been in parts of the country that are much more polluted than Miami, and their cancer rates are higher. You can't just tell me that the people there have different DNA than you and I. Mm-hmm. So I think that part of the reason that autism is increasing is environmental.
Oh, I agree with that. When I was going through that with my son, I said, maybe it's an allergy or something. I don't know. I was like, but he's not autistic, but everything, as a parent, you just start analyzing everything in your environment and family history, and then you try to pinpoint things, which family history does help, because sometimes autism was, I remember autism wasn't, in our time, in my age, it wasn't diagnosed at all, And they just said, oh, no, that person is just, shy, and maybe they were autistic, they didn't feel comfortable in their environment. And so tell me a little bit about, I know there's a great doctor in and you're part of his group. Can you tell me a little bit about him and what he started? Because I know he's one of the pioneers regarding autism, correct?
Well, he was not a pioneer. He's not that old, but... Dr. Michael Alessandri at the Center for Autism.
Well, that's the only one I met during that time. I was like, okay, that's the guy.
He is the GOAT in Miami. I will say that.
There we go.
Okay,
he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT.
He's executive director of CARD, which is the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities. Mm-hmm. Now, this is actually a statewide initiative. There's 7 cards around the state of Florida. Miami's the biggest one, obviously, because it's the biggest city in Florida. And Florida is the only state in the nation with a statewide program.
Wow.
Now, if you're a first-time autism parent and you're trying to get plugged into the system, CARD is a great place to start. Because they will tell you, this is where you get evaluations, this is where you get diagnosis, this is a list of schools, therapy centers, this is the dad's group, this is the mom's group. So it's a great,
that's amazing.
And it's all free. It's all free. They call, when you sign up with them, they call you a client, but it's free. There's no charge for that service. And, I'll say this, when I got the diagnosis, like any dad, I go to Google.
Everybody goes to Google for everything. But that's the problem with Google
is if you type in Miami Autism Services, you're going to get page after page after page. It's like drinking from a fire hose. You don't know where to start. And, maybe you find like the page you need to be at, but it's on page 5. You're never going to get there. So CARD is a great place to start.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And then depending on the age of your child, they'll tell you if they're 0 to 3, go to early steps. 3 to 5, go to fiddlers. 5 and above, go to the public school. So they'll tell you, and they'll give you the phone number, the website, the emails to get plugged in.
Fiddlers.
Yeah.
They were the first, I believe, that started helping. My Blue Lakes Elementary had the those classes that put both children together for them to help each other out, especially the autistic kids. And it was very successful. And they opened a middle school there as well for children, which I feel like they were the first ones that I knew about that were doing a difference. And I know there's many more schools now. Can you share a little bit of all the schools that you know about that you have interviewed that have that are just for autistic kids?
Sure. So at the public school, it's called a self-contained program. Now, I will tell parents that have autistic kids, this is going to be for higher functioning kids. Okay. Like my daughter, who's nonverbal, that would not be appropriate for her. She'd have to go to either a private school or a charter school, which is non-cost. Right. There's so many that I really can't name drop them all. But if you have a higher functioning kid, public school could be okay. Although there's also charter in private schools. Now, if you have a lower functioning nonverbal child like my daughter, the public school is not going to be the place. Now, they might take your child, but it's completely inappropriate in my view.
I got it. At least there's options now, right?
There's a lot of options.
Yes. There's a lot. And I think one of the things parents need to, which we were talking about, is know about their surroundings, get very informed, go to the schools, see the school if that is appropriate for your child. Does your child feel comfortable in that school? I mean, at least we have options, which we didn't before.
No, there's so many options right now that there's no shortage. And in my Autism Dads group, people will post like their experiences, and some are good, some are bad, but eventually they do find the place that works for them, and they're happy. So in Miami-Dade County, despite any rumblings and grumblings you might hear, Miami's got a ton of autism services and disability services, and we're super blessed in that sense.
I always say in every interview, I don't believe people understand how lucky we are to be in Miami.
Yes.
We have so many resources. I mean, we have so many hospitals. You have options for second opinions. It's not like that in other states or in other cities. So we're very lucky to have that.
Listen, I met a guy who moved from Missouri to Miami because of the autism services.
Wow.
He's like, Victor, in Missouri, it was a small town, 6,000 people. So zero services because she said the economics is not there. He moved here. He loves Miami. He loves the school. He loves the weather. So we've got a great thing going on in Miami.
Amen. Amen, yes. We do. And that took courage from him.
Sure did.
You know, you leave your past behind and you're looking, you know, just to help your child, which I feel like every parent does, right? And I think if you stop and observe and listen, it gives you the courage to make a change, right? So I really believe that took a lot of courage to do, to leave all that behind and get a better understanding of what your child's going through. I know that I asked you about your daughter, and I know that autism children have specialties, like they gravitate to something. What does your daughter gravitate to?
Music.
Yeah.
She loves her iPad and YouTube. We restricted to YouTube Kids because we want to have her age appropriate.
Right, of course.
But she will sing along to her iPad. Now, when I say nonverbal, people just assume that they're a mute. Nothing comes out. No, nonverbal means that they can't maybe have a conversation with you. They can't speak as clearly as you and I, but words do come out. And what we see, my wife and I, with our daughter, is that the more time she spends singing, the better her vocabulary is becoming.
Wow.
So hopefully that will be her gateway to having a fully fluent adulthood.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yes. We're so
I saw a documentary a long time ago on HBO, and it was a mom that helped her son write books. And so he was nonverbal, and she figured out a way for him to pick the letters, and took a long time, but it made it feel, he wrote the books, and it made him feel like he was doing something, and he got paid for his books, which nice. I think that's one of the most important topics right now. Once these children become adults, how can we place them in jobs? So tell me a little bit about that. I know you've interviewed a few places that are starting, like the coffee shop. So let's share a little bit about that.
So first of all, the younger you get your kid into therapies. Now, I'm not really happy with that word therapy.
Okay.
I prefer the word like tutoring.
Oh, okay.
Because therapy sounds like you're sick.
That's true.
I prefer the word tutoring.
Right.
So, but they call them therapies. That's the word we go with. But I prefer the word tutoring.
Got it.
But the younger you get your kid into these programs, the better outcomes you're going to have. So it's super important. Like yesterday, I had a couple on my podcast, and when they first went to have their child diagnosed, and this was 2 years ago, the psychiatrist said, "Oh, let's hold off." And they're like, "Hold off?
No.
Like, why would you hold off?"
Of course not.
Because at the worst, you're just wrong. At best, you find out that your kid is autistic, and you get them into these programs right away.
Faster, right?
So first of all, as a parent, if you ever go to a doctor and they say, "Let's hold off," you hold off on like surgery. But an evaluation or a diagnosis, there's no downside to being wrong.
If I'm not mistaken, the earlier you start, the better outcome you'll have.
Right.
Right.
So there are programs like the Demoya Foundation, the WOW Center. Okay, so once your kid becomes 22, they age out of the public school system.
Okay.
So there is the adult day training centers where they'll get these people ready for the workforce. Now, I had on Camila Rocha from Easter Seals on my podcast, and we were talking about the unemployed population of autistic individuals. And it's like 85, 90% are unemployed, which is insane. And I asked her, okay, but Camila, how many are employable? About 85, 90% of them.
Wow.
Almost all of them. But you got to get them when they're young enough, train them, and get them prepped, and then find the right place. And then, yes, there are places like No Limits Coffee Shop, Our Grounds Coffee Shop, Publix, Goodwill that are getting. Easter Seals also has a cafe on wheels where they will give these young adults gainful lifetime employment.
That's amazing.
Yes, and for the parents who are receiving disability for their kids, know that your kid can work part-time and still qualify for their disability.
Which is very important.
Which is super important. So getting these kids employed, we got to do it. And I'll tell you why. The numbers are increasing. Right now, it's 1 in 22, which is insane.
That's a lot.
If 85 to 90% of that population is unemployed, think of the financial burden, not just on the family, but on the community. Because we're all going to pay for that one way or another.
Right.
And just the social and emotional strain on the parents of having to take care of this person all their life when they could be taking care of themselves. If we as a community step up and work on having more day training centers and more small mom and pops, hiring them, and then us as a community going to these shops and giving them our business and supporting them.
Of course.
Yes.
It's very important.
Super important.
Super important. And I think also your community as parents to gather together to talk more about it and, maybe go to bigger corporations to let them know how functional they could be and how they could help, right? There's so many ways, and you're doing a great job with the community news and bringing more information to our community. So a little bit more, I wanted to talk to you about a little bit university-wise. Some do go to college. And do you know which colleges are, participate with, kids with autism? I know FIU, I have a friend that her daughter goes to FIU, and they have special courses, and I even believe a special school. Is that true?
I'm not sure about a special school, but I have heard great feedback on FIU, Miami-Dade, and it's called accommodations.
Okay,
so
that's
by
right.
law, they have to give accommodations. I'll give you an example. I had one girl on my podcast. She's high functioning autistic, but she has high support needs. She's blind in one eye and low vision in the other one. And she had a professor who was giving her a really hard time. No, things have got to be done like this. And he wouldn't accommodate her. Right. So she went to the administration, and guess what? They accommodated her. So the laws are out there to help these individuals out if they know about them. And sometimes you have to advocate for yourself.
Right.
So she advocated for herself, and the professor had to accommodate her. So all these schools, not just in Dade County, these are ADA laws nationwide. So the schools must accommodate. But
right.
Sometimes you'll have professors who are just like, they don't know, maybe they're jerks. You never know. But if you advocate for yourself, go to the administration, they will accommodate you. Yeah,
it's very important. I feel like a lot of times, even with my son, I went to, and they wouldn't accommodate. I'm like, but he has a 504. I mean, you need to accommodate, He needs more time for his tests. And it was a really big struggle, but we finally got it. But it's like you say, you have to advocate. And it's not easy sometimes, but it's possible, You just have to be hopeful.
Yes. And the word for this is called ableism, where people think that you're not able because you have this certain disability. But no, they are able. I'll give you an example. I had these autistic violin players on my podcast called Sophisticated Strings. Well, both of them, when they were in high school, they have stories of being left out of the music program. Now, to be in the music program, you have to try out.
Right.
And you can know who's better than who. And they were not at the bottom of the list. They were, they were good enough where they should have made the cut, and they didn't make the cut. But the moms went in and advocated for them.
Good for them.
Which shouldn't be necessary, but sometimes it is.
It is.
But if you advocate for your kids and then teach your kids how to advocate for themselves once they're older, it can be done.
As a caregiver, as you know, I mentioned to you in my foundation, you have to advocate. Even as a caregiver, when you have a family member that's sick, if you don't advocate for them, that they're going through the issues and they're just going through what their body's going through, you have to observe and advocate for them and tell them what they need or what they're not doing or whatever the case may be or what you need help in. Because I think it takes courage to ask for help. And I think that's something that with autism right now, there's more talk. So you're able to ask for help, and you have groups and it helps everybody, right? Not only for yourself and your family, but other families, and the community brings more awareness to the community. So what do you plan to do with your foundation? What are your goals? What's your hope in the future? What you want to do for your...
I don't have a foundation, but I have my podcast.
Your podcast.
I'm doing a disability newsletter, and my hope is just to advocate for these people, educate the greater community. But most of all, what I want to do is I want to help parents of these kids know that there's a community out there for them, and then help them plug into it. Because the services are out there, like CARD, Easter Seals, Parent to Parent. They're out there.
Fellowship.
The fellowship circle down in the Killeen area, yes, Rabbi Yossi.
Yeah, Heather.
So, and Heather. So there's a lot out there. But if you're a parent getting a diagnosis today, it's interesting because I'll have conversations with, I had a conversation with a lady, she's a grandmother of an autistic kid. And I spoke to her about CARD, never heard of it. And she's a lifelong Miamian. And I thought to myself, I've only been on this journey for 5 years, but I've done a really good job of educating myself. But there are parents and grandparents of autistic people that have been in this world for decades, and they don't even know that these big state-funded resources are out there, and they don't know about this. So my plan and my goal with the podcast and other things that I'm doing is to show parents that there's a system out there, and not only the outcomes for your kids, but as the caregiver are much better when you're plugged into a bigger community.
I want to bring a question that we didn't talk about before. So when you found out your daughter was autistic, how did your family react, and how did you approach it to grandmothers and aunts and siblings? Because I have friends that have their children that are autistic, and that's been a really big issue in the sense of educating them. So what advice would you give them for that?
Well, first of all, with my family, it was never a thing. Now,
thank God.
My wife,
there's like a denial sometimes,
Sometimes, but we're in Miami, we're a very progressive city. So on my side, I never had any nerves about it. My wife, a little bit, but she's Peruvian from Peru. So they're just a little bit maybe behind, social wise. But as far as accepting,
that was amazing.
Yeah, there's no issues. But that's just us. I know that because I'm on these like different Facebook groups for parents of autism, and some do have some very difficult in-laws and parents and siblings. So everybody's situation is different, but it just is what it is. And, every family's going to be different.
Right. Maybe a grandmother's group.
Maybe a grandmother's group.
Maybe a grandmother's grandpa group. That would be good, right? So that they could talk and, find out what their frustration is, right? And how they could help, because we all have to help each other, Grandmothers play a big role in our children's lives. At least mine's did. I don't know what I would have done without my grandmas, and my kids, what would they have done without their grandma and their grandfather. So it's important for them to be educated too, I believe.
Sure. They call it the granny effect, by the way.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes, it's a thing.
It is a thing.
Yes, and people talk about it. Yeah, grannies have a big effect. It could be the grandpa effect too, but the granny is the big
granny,
one.
Granny. I hope I'm going to be a good granny.
Yeah. So talking about plugging in, I'm part of a men's autism group called Just for Dads at UM.
Okay.
There's also Just for Moms at UM.
Oh, okay.
If people reach out to me, I'll show them how to get plugged in. But there's also Parent to Parent. They've got different groups. And some are live, some are Zoom. I'll be honest with you. After the COVID, I'm zoomed out. I want to be in person, okay?
Me too. I don't want no more Zooms either.
And as a man, I put off for a long time joining the groups. Like, I don't need that. Then once I went there, I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Guys will bring pizza, beer, sodas, whatever. We just sit there and just,
And just talk.
Yeah, just talk. We'll go one by one.
And help each other out, right?
Oh, well, Dr. Michael Alessandri, he is the leader of the group. And he'll be like, okay, speak to this person. Call me. Call that group. He'll tell you exactly how to fix it. So these are things that if you plug into a group of men or women, you're going to get answers that on your own will take you forever, or you might not ever get. And sometimes that phone call that somebody places for you opens doors that maybe you didn't even know that a door existed.
Right.
So it really pays to plug in, and it's free. So there's no reason not to go.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So how can they sign up? How do they sign up? How can they meet you? Is there any way that how can they get in contact with you?
So just text me 305-401-6224, and you ask me whatever question it is. Schools, therapy centers, the men's group, the mom's group, whatever. I will show you where to get plugged in.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Very noble. How's your podcast coming along?
The podcast is going great. It started in April, Autism Awareness Month, and I'm getting great feedback. And it's at the point right now where people are calling me to be on, qualified people. But what? Something I realized early on was that, like I said earlier, I think that autism is just one of the disabilities. There's many. In fact, people don't realize this, but 1 in 6 Americans lives with a disability, because it's 1 in 22 for autism, which is a huge number. But when you take all disabilities, it's 1 in 6. So that means in just Dade County, you've got from 500,000 to 600,000 people living with a life-changing disability. So when I have people come onto the podcast, now it's beyond just autism because there is a greater need. And what's interesting is, let's say you have an autistic kid, dyslexic, Down syndrome, wheelchair. About 80% of the services is an overlap because there's different scholarships and grants and this or that therapy center. So there's about an 80% overlap. So if you plug into the system, even though it might not be the same disability as my child, it's about an 80% overlap. So it's a good place to start.
That's crazy. It's so much information too.
It is a lot.
It could be overwhelming as well.
Totally overwhelming.
Which with your group, you could express how overwhelming it is and how to navigate it because, like you said, every child is different.
And every family is different.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So by plugging into the system, the people that are out there, and it's free, plug in. And you're going to tell you go to these meetings and it's like a cleansing because you're like, oh, I've got it better than him. He's got it worse than me. I'm not the only one. Because, we catastrophize. Right. Oh, woe is me. But you're like, you know what? It could be worse. Could be better, but could be worse.
And one of the great things that I've learned that it's changed since I had my kids is that there's hope, right? Like we talked about, people don't talk about it enough. Like maybe your child doesn't talk, but as age progresses and they get older, sometimes some start talking or verbalizing again, correct?
Yes. In fact, I saw a YouTube video that went viral. This gentleman over in England, he was nonverbal to 11, got his PhD, and now he is a professor at Oxford.
Look at that.
I spoke to another gentleman. He was nonverbal till 14. When he started talking, he was talking at the age of a 2-year-old. Now he's 35 and he speaks flawlessly.
Isn't that amazing?
So there's always hope.
There's always hope.
There's always hope.
It's always to stay hopeful and believe.
Hope is good medicine. Very strong medicine.
Very strong medicine. Yes. And you have to believe in yourself. And I think believe in the higher power that you're going to get the answers. Mm-hmm. And keep fighting the good fight because if it wouldn't be people like you that share these stories, some people would feel that there's no options, but there is, and we have to be aware, right?
You got to be aware. And again, that goes back to there's a lot of resources in Dade County, and if you don't plug in, you're going to miss it because a lot of it is low cost, no cost, free, whatever. Some of it costs. But even for that, there's a lot of grants and scholarships out there. But if you don't plug in,
there is.
You can't take advantage of that.
Like Step Up. Step Up. Step Up is a great, and people don't know enough about Step Up, right? Oh. And you go to the school system, and they give you some information, but you have to do your own research at the end of the day, right?
You have to. And then, like I said, if you plug in, someone's done that research for you. Mm-hmm. The heavy lifting's been done. So if you plug in, you go to these groups and, everybody's talking, you're picking up information that otherwise you wouldn't have. Because there are things that I know now that even 6 months ago, I didn't know.
And it changes all the time, right?
Constantly.
Right. So what advice would you give a parent that has a baby and they're found out that their child is autistic? What advice would you give them?
Well, I would back it up. If you suspect your child is autistic, get them evaluated right away. 0 to 3, it's early steps. 3 to 5, it's fiddlers. Above 5 is the public school system because there's no downside to it. Now, if somebody said, hey, we're going to do brain surgery. Well, you know what? Let's slow down and get a second opinion. But if you think that your child might have autism or any other disability, find out right now. Right. Because there's no downside to finding out now. So my advice would be is find out, first of all, if they are.
Right.
After that, plug in. Call UM-CARD. Call Easter Seals, call parent to parent. See which one works for you because they're all a little bit different.
I think one of the things you said, we need to observe our child, right? Mm-hmm. If they're not speaking certain words at a certain age, or maybe not walking properly, or maybe their motor skills are not as good as they should be. I mean, you should be aware instead of saying, that's not happening, right? A lot of parents get fearful from that, I feel. I didn't notice, when my son started talking at 2, he wasn't saying as many words as he was supposed to. But it is very important that you see past that and attack it. Like, go and say, yes, go to your doctor and say, I see this, and ask questions,
Yes. Sometimes as parents, we're just blind to our own kids.
We are.
We just don't see it.
Yeah.
So when my mother-in-law said, hey, something is off, I was like, okay, yeah, something is off. I was never in denial. I just didn't know what I didn't know. But sometimes it does take, at the same time though, realize this, as a parent of your child, you are the expert of your child. Because there was a time not too long ago where it was thought, we keep the parents out of any therapies. Now it's like, no, we include the parents because they're with the kid 24 hours a day.
Right.
A doctor sees your kid for 10 minutes and now they know more than you. So that's another thing. If you go to a doctor, psychologist, whatever it may be, and you're not included in your child's health care, mental care, find somebody else.
Got it. That's important.
Very important.
Very important. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Yolanda. It's been a great conversation.
I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you.
You brought a lot of awareness, not only to me but to our community. And I think you bring a peace and assurance that everything's going to be okay. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
So I want to thank everybody for being here with us today. This is a wonderful man. And if you need any information, please contact him. He is very knowledgeable. And of course, like always, I say, stay hopeful. Always believe that you're going to find the answer. You're never left alone. There are a lot of people around us that want to help us. And I want to thank Dade County and our community for being so wonderful to us, right? That they give us so much resources. And of course, the Miller family, this community newspaper, please support them every day. They are a wonderful family and they do wonderful things for their community. Have a blessed day and thank you for being with us today. Bye-bye.